In every age, people have asked the same questions. What is the good life? How should we treat one another? What does it mean to be free or virtuous or just? What does it mean to be human? Western moral philosophy for beginners and Selenius Media takes you on a guided journey through the minds that shaped the moral backbone of the West, from the earliest Greek thinkers to the modern age. Lived stories of struggle, ambition, conflict, revelation, all unfolding against the sweep of history. If you've ever wanted to understand philosophy clearly, calmly, and humanly, if you want to know not just what these thinkers argued, but why it mattered, follow Western moral philosophy for beginners today and explore 10 more podcasts at Selenius Media. Dante Alighieri is most renowned for his monumental work, The Divine Comedy, a poem that has profoundly influenced not only literature, but also Western moral philosophy. Composed in the early 14th century during the late Middle Ages, this epic journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven articulates Dante's vision of the moral universe in which personal conduct, the nature of justice, and the relationship between sin and salvation take center stage. While we covered his biography and the basic context in our previous episode, this deep dive will illuminate the intricate moral philosophy that pervades his work, connecting his medieval insights to contemporary ethical dilemmas. To understand Dante's moral vision, it is essential first to delve into the structure and themes of the Divine Comedy. The journey begins in the dark woods of despair, symbolizing the confusion and disorientation that sin brings to human life. Guided by the Roman poet Virgil, Dante traverses the three realms of the afterlife, encountering a tapestry of historical figures, fictional characters, and allegorical beings. Through this pilgrimage, Dante elucidates not only the consequences of personal actions based on moral choices, but also the dynamics of divine justice, a concept that remains crucial to moral philosophy today. Central to Dante's moral philosophy is the notion of moral order, where every soul's journey reflects their earthly life choices. He posits that individuals possess free will to choose between good and evil, and these choices shape their eternal destinies. In Inferno, for instance, Dante categorizes sins into three main divisions: incontinence, malice, and fraud. This tripartite structure captures the essence of human failing. Incontinence, or inability to control one's desires, occupies the lower circles of hell, presenting figures such as Francesca da Rimini, whose romantic impulse leads to their tragic fate. In the middle, malice involves willful harm to others, exemplified by characters like Count Ugolino, who inflicts suffering out of vengeance. The highest and ultimately most egregious sin is fraud, represented by the hypocritical and the treacherous, who manipulate and deceive for personal gain. A crucial argument embedded in the Divine Comedy concerns how these sins reflect deeper moral truths about human nature and its relationship to God. Dante asserts that each sin corresponds to a particular vice, resulting in specific punitive measures, a concept known as contrapasso, or counter-suffering. For instance, the fortune-tellers who sought to control the future are condemned to walk with their heads backward, forever desiring to see what they cannot. This highlights a fundamental moral insight. Our actions have repercussions that are not only temporal, but eternal. Dante's exploration of vengeance and justice calls to mind modern discussions about punishment in contemporary law, where the balance between retribution and rehabilitation remains contentious. Moreover, Dante's concept of love plays a significant role in his moral framework. Unlike contemporary views that often regard love as merely an emotion, Dante sees it as a guiding principle, essential for alignment with the divine order. In the Divine Comedy, he articulates two forms of love: the love of sense, which pertains to bodily desires, and the love of reason, which aligns individuals with God. His journey towards salvation culminates in the vision of God's divine love in Paradiso, showcasing how moral development leads to enlightenment and unity with the divine. Here, modern implications arise in the realm of ethics. How do our desires align with our moral duties in personal relationships, social justice, and the pursuit of happiness? As we navigate through Dante's intricate moral landscape, we inevitably arrive at the contemporary issue of justice, particularly the intersection of law and morality. Dante's emphasis on moral order and divine justice invites reflection on how our legal systems should reflect ethical principles. Consider the debates surrounding capital punishment. Advocates argue it serves as a form of justice for the worst offenders, whereas opponents contend it contradicts the very essence of rehabilitation and respect for human dignity. This echoes Dante's examination of punishment, where the nature of each sin warrants specific consequences and raises pressing questions. Are our legal stipulations in line with true justice as envisioned by moral philosophy? The constricted framework of moral absolutism in Dante's thought also invites critique. Critics argue that relating punishment strictly to the nature of sin neglects the complexities of circumstances surrounding human behavior. While Dante affirms individual responsibility, he does not fully account for systemic issues, societal pressures, or psychological conditions that shape moral choices. This limitation paves the way for later thinkers such as Immanuel Kant, who, while sharing a commitment to moral responsibility, examined the role of intention and categorical imperatives, contributing a more robust framework for understanding moral actions beyond mere consequences. Dante's influence persists in modern philosophical debates, especially concerning personal ethics and collective responsibility. When examined against dilemmas such as climate change, for instance, his insights regarding accountability take on a new dimension. Caught in the emergent tension between individual and collective moral agency, we find ourselves reflecting on how personal consumption choices intersect with broader societal behaviors. Should individuals bear personal guilt for collective failures? Dante's work insists that moral culpability cannot be ignored, echoing today's fervent discourse on environmental ethics. Later philosophers, such as Friedrich Nietzsche, challenged Dante's moral absolutism and the metaphysical underpinnings of his worldview. Nietzsche critiques the dichotomy of good and evil that governs Dante's cosmic vision, describing it instead as a product of human perspective shaped by power dynamics and cultural contexts. While Dante's vision is anchored in divine justice, Nietzsche invites us to reconsider morality as a construct influenced by life's complexities. Amidst this challenge, Dante's work continues to spark discussions on the universality of moral truths versus the relativity of moral standards. Examining Dante's artistry reveals that his teaching stretches far beyond the specificities of his time. The Divine Comedy serves as an ethical mirror, reflecting humanity's enduring quest for meaning, justice, and moral coherence. Through allegory and allegorical representation, Dante invites readers to traverse their internal landscapes, grappling with their choices, flaws, and aspirations. This resonates profoundly with contemporary struggles as individuals seek to navigate life's myriad moral complexities. As we conclude this exploration of Dante's moral philosophy, consider how these ideas touch your own life. In a world marred by conflict and ethical ambiguity, it is worth contemplating the implications of our actions and how they contribute to a larger moral narrative. While Dante's framework may seem distant, his inquiries into justice, sin, and redemption offer a foundation to build upon. What choices guide your daily life? How do you perceive the moral consequences of those actions, both in the immediate and the long run? Through reflection, we might all enjoy a deeper understanding of our place within the tapestry of moral existence, inspired by Dante's eternal quest for truth, justice, and divine love. Dante's contributions to moral philosophy extend into complex explorations of identity, community, and the essence of virtue. One significant aspect of his work is the interplay between individual moral agency and communal ethical norms. In Dante's view, one's personal choices do not occur in isolation. Instead, they reflect and affect the larger social fabric. This interconnectedness is crucial, as the moral weight of an individual's actions is contingent not only on intention, but also on the consequences those actions have within society. This concept can be related to the modern discussions surrounding the ethics of social media and technology. In a world increasingly interconnected by digital platforms, how one's words and actions online can have far-reaching impacts on public sentiment creates a parallel to Dante's convictions about the collective repercussions of personal choices. For instance, casual remarks can fuel movements or incite conflicts, echoing Dante's idea that individual actions ripple through the community, influencing others in ways that can lead to collective virtue or vice. As we engage with social media, an ethical reflection consistent with Dante's teachings could involve questioning how our actions contribute to or detract from communal well-being, illustrating the age-old dilemma of individualism versus collectivism. Another significant aspect of Dante's moral philosophy lies in the pursuit of the divine through virtue. In the Divine Comedy, Dante emphasizes that knowledge and understanding are pivotal in the quest for truth. He outlines various virtues, such as prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance, as the moral bedrock essential for achieving a harmonious relationship with the divine order. Dante's approach aligns with Aristotle's virtue ethics, which posits that developing good character traits leads to a flourishing life. However, Dante deepens this view with the added dimension of divine grace, implying that while individuals can cultivate virtues, it is ultimately grace that fosters true alignment with God. In modern moral debates, especially within the realms of medicine and bioethics, Dante's perspective on virtue and divine grace raises pertinent questions. Consider the dilemma of medical professionals faced with decisions about end-of-life care or resource allocation during crises, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. The virtues of compassion, justice, and prudence become undeniably critical as practitioners navigate complex ethical landscapes. Yet, beyond the mere application of virtue lies the question of divine purpose, or the intrinsic moral order that guides their choices. Understanding these decisions as not only clinical, but also deeply ethical, their implications resonate with Dante's insistence on the spiritual dimension of moral decision-making. Moreover, in the dialogue surrounding artificial intelligence and the ethics of technology, Dante's emphasis on virtue serves as a crucial framework. As we design algorithms that govern our lives, from determining credit scores to moderating content online, the concerns about bias, justice, and accountability loom large. Here, Dante's idea of virtue as a guiding compass can offer invaluable insights. The intention behind technological advancements must align with the virtues of promoting the common good, as well as fostering justice, transparency, and respect for individuality. Through Dante's lens, we might examine how our technological innovations can reflect ethical considerations that prioritize humanity's betterment rather than mere convenience or profitability. However, Dante's moral philosophy is not without its disputes and limitations. His perspective on sin, punishment, and virtue has been critiqued for offering a framework that may be overly rigid or absolutist. For instance, some argue that the linearity of moral progression inherent in his cosmic order lacks consideration for the complexities of human life and the multiplicity of contexts that shape ethical decisions. Critics raise questions about the extent to which Dante's punitive measures allow for redemption or mercy within the moral universe he constructs. In this way, his work sometimes overlooks the nuance required in understanding human behavior and moral failures. Responses to these critiques can be seen in subsequent philosophical developments, particularly in existentialist thought. Thinkers like Soren Kierkegaard and later Jean-Paul Sartre challenge the absolute nature of moral standards, advocating for a more subjective and contextually aware understanding of ethics. Kierkegaard, for instance, emphasizes the individual's relationship to truth, which may vary based on personal experience and circumstance, thus enriching the conversation about moral agency. Sartre's existentialism further counters the notion of fixed virtues with the idea that existence precedes essence, proposing that individuals create their own moral codes through choices. Such divergence from Dante's stringent moralism illustrates a broader rejection of a universal moral framework in favor of a more fluid understanding of ethics, one that resonates with the complexities of contemporary life. Dante's work also reveals the cultural context of the time, a society deeply intertwined with religious dogma. His reliance on the Christian framework, while providing a potent lens for examining morality, may alienate those outside its bounds. This phenomenon invites exploration into how moral philosophy has since adapted to accommodate a pluralistic society that encompasses diverse belief systems. As the world has grown increasingly interconnected and multicultural, the challenge of harmonizing various ethical frameworks has become more pressing. Modern moral philosophers like Martha Nussbaum and more contemporary figures emphasize capabilities and flourishing as ethical touchstones that transcend individual religions, thereby contributing to broader, more inclusive moral discourse. Despite these critiques and evolutions, Dante's influence remains palpable in discussions surrounding human rights and ethical reasoning in law and politics. His work can be reframed as an early advocate for the moral dimensions of political justice, suggesting that governance should reflect ethical principles that stem from a universal understanding of human dignity. Today, questions surrounding immigration, social justice, and human rights owe their inquiries to the kind of moral understanding articulated by Dante. Informed by his insights, advocates today grapple with the concept of just governance as society tries to balance order, personal freedom, and moral accountability. Further, his opinions on the significance of individual moral responsibility amidst collective circumstances resonate deeply in contemporary human rights discussions. The concept of individual accountability becomes particularly significant in discussions about systemic injustice, where individuals and institutions often struggle to take ownership of moral implications. Exploring whether ethical responsibilities can be diluted within a system. Dante's emphasis on personal agency compels us to scrutinize how our actions ought to promote justice and rectify injustices, challenging us to think about how we contribute to systemic change. In this expansive web of moral philosophy, Dante Alighieri stands as a monumental figure, providing a lens through which individuals can confront their moral landscape. The enduring value of his insights encourages active engagement with personal ethics and instills a sense of accountability toward both oneself and the community. His exploration of sin, virtue, and the divine order frames a rich dialogue about the nature of ethical responsibility and the human condition, a dialogue that continues to evolve with philosophical advancement and social change. As we reflect upon Dante's complex moral structures and their applications in modern contexts, it is essential to identify how his insights speak to our own lives. In moments of personal decision-making, could we benefit from considering not just the immediate implications of our actions, but also the larger ethical narratives that they contribute to? How do our choices reflect our understanding of virtue, and do they align with our conception of a just society? Much like Dante's journey through the realms of the afterlife, our voyage through life's moral territory necessitates reflection, growth, and the pursuit of greater understanding. Engaging with Dante challenges us to think deeply about personal and collective identities and to foster an ethical consciousness that recognizes the interconnectedness of our lives within the greater moral fabric. Thus, as we carry his legacy forward, let us embrace the call for a thoughtful engagement with our moral duties, examining not just the consequences of our choices, but the philosophical roots that justify them, ultimately striving for a deeper alignment with the ideals of justice, love, and virtue that Dante so passionately championed. Is there a higher calling echoing in the tapestry of our daily actions, urging us to transcend ourselves and contribute to a moral narrative worth telling? The invitation remains for each of us to answer that call as we navigate the world through our unique journeys. Dante's exploration of moral philosophy extends beyond the grandeur of the Divine Comedy, resonating with the everyday ethical dilemmas we face in modern society. A vital aspect of his work is how it addresses the constant tension between the individual and the collective, a theme that can illuminate the motivations behind ethical action today. This duality is embodied in the very structure of the Divine Comedy, where personal choices lead individuals through realms that reflect not just personal fates, but communal realities, emphasizing the interconnected nature of human experience. This concept of moral interdependence is profoundly relevant in discussions about social justice. In contemporary debates surrounding issues like systemic racism or economic inequality, the notion that one's personal actions are entangled with broader societal dynamics reflects Dante's insights. For instance, consider the fight against systemic injustice. Activists often point to the importance of collective responsibility, arguing that individuals benefit from social structures and consequently have a moral obligation to address the inequities perpetuated by those structures. Dante's articulation of moral responsibility reinforces the idea that individuals must examine not only their intentions and actions, but also the societal systems that shape those actions. Furthermore, the question of virtue as a catalyst for justice, in Dante's view, prompts reflection on contemporary challenges in navigating individual moral agency within collective movements. Take, for example, the climate crisis. Allegations of climate hypocrisy sometimes surface when individuals advocate for environmental policy while simultaneously contributing to pollution through their lifestyle choices. Dante's emphasis on alignment between personal behavior and moral ideals serves as a reminder that ethical living requires coherence between one's advocacy and personal actions. Such reflections prompt questions about how each of us can transform our personal ethics into collective action, enhancing our reach and effectiveness in combating real-world problems. As we examine the ethical implications of virtue through Dante's lens, it is crucial to highlight both his commitment to individual virtue and the virtue of collective action. His vision suggests that genuine moral development is not solely an individual pursuit, but a communal one, where the virtues cultivated within the populace shape the moral fabric of society. Consequently, this idea encourages discourse on how societal values can foster environments that both enable personal flourishing and promote community-wide moral responsibilities. Despite the strengths found within Dante's framework of moral philosophy, criticisms arise that challenge its applicability to diverse modern ethical contexts. For instance, some argue that Dante's portrayal of sin and virtue may oversimplify the complexities of human experience. overly rendering moral distinctions in stark black and white terms. Critics contend that such a perspective can alienate individuals grappling with complicated moral circumstances where choices are not clear-cut. Often grounded in his Christian worldview, Dante's strict categorizations of sin reflect a cosmic order deeply embedded in theological doctrine. Yet, the evolving moral landscape calls for a nuanced understanding of ethics, one that can accommodate gray areas where conflicting duties may converge. Today's moral dilemmas often arise in fields like bioethics, where professionals grapple with decisions that encompass life and death, care and autonomy. In these situations, an inflexible framework may struggle to accommodate the difficult choices caregivers must make, which could involve weighing patient autonomy against collective health considerations in a pandemic. For instance, philosophers like John Stuart Mill, with his utilitarian approach, present an interesting counterpoint to Dante's moral absolutism. Mill's perspective emphasizes the outcomes of actions rather than their inherent moral value, suggesting that ethical decision-making should prioritize the greatest good for the greatest number. This flexible approach resonates with the complexities faced in modern ethical dilemmas, allowing for a broader interpretation of moral responsibility that includes a spectrum of consequences. Additionally, Nietzsche's critique of morality, a sharp departure from ascetic notions of virtue, challenges Dante's insistence on an ordered moral universe governed by divine justice. Nietzsche urges us to reconsider the origins of our moral values, advocating for a perspective that embraces the dynamism of human experience over static moral codes. This calls into question whether Dante's vision is truly adaptable to contemporary moral architecture, a pressing inquiry for those navigating the fluid ethical landscapes of today. Yet, even in light of these tensions, Dante's insights remain indispensable for exploring the intersection of morality and the human experience. His reflections on identity, personal growth, and the quest for virtue mirror contemporary philosophical explorations within existentialism and virtue ethics. In these discussions, the evolution of individual morals continues to stress the significance of self-awareness and intention in cultivating ethical frameworks. Dante's embodiment of intellectual humility, through his search for truth, emphasizes the importance of doubt and reflection in personal moral development. His character reflects our collective trajectory toward understanding the moral complexities of our choices. As we navigate life, whether that includes witnessing societal injustices or grappling with personal dilemmas, the lens through which we view our ethical landscape greatly impacts our actions. A significant element of Dante's moral philosophy involves the theme of redemption. Not only does he illuminate the consequences of sin, but he also emphasizes the potential for repentance and the transformative nature of moral growth. This optimistic perspective serves as a counterpoint to nihilism, presenting a worldview that acknowledges human imperfection while simultaneously affirming the possibility for change. This insight resonates particularly in discussions surrounding recovery frameworks, whether in the context of addiction, societal wrongs, or personal regrets. As individuals navigate their paths toward redemption, Dante's work encourages the belief that it is never too late to pursue a moral compass aligned with virtues like love, justice, and understanding. Modern iterations of Dante's emphasis on redemption are reflected in restorative justice practices within legal frameworks. Rather than approaching punishment as retribution alone, restorative justice models emphasize healing for both victims and offenders, fostering dialogue, accountability, and ultimately transforming the harmful patterns that contribute to criminal behavior. Here, the application of Dante's insights about moral growth and the interconnectedness of our actions illuminate the path away from mere punishment toward healing and restoration. Dante's thoughts on love, particularly the interplay between cosmic and human love, invoke further reflection on morality's essence. His assertion that the universe is fundamentally structured around love aligns with modern philosophical discussions about the importance of empathy and relational ethics. This perspective connects with the emerging fields of care ethics and relational moral frameworks, which navigate the importance of relationships and context in ethical decision-making. Consider how this exploration of love transcends individualistic understandings, urging society to focus on how interconnected relationships shape ethical imperatives. For example, within healthcare, ethical dilemmas abound that are deeply situational, hinging on the dynamics of caregiver relationships with patients. As healthcare providers navigate the complexities of care, prioritizing relational ethics encourages compassion and understanding, leading to decisions that more effectively honor both individual dignity and the shared responsibilities that emerge from caring for one another. Moreover, the relevance of Dante's considerations on love becomes evident in dialogues about inclusivity and social equity. As societal understandings of love evolve to embrace broader definitions, encompassing love across identities and cultures, the moral imperatives derived from a communal, love-centered ethic prompt engagement with social issues of equity and justice. This approach not only echoes Dante's sentiments, but also unveils a compelling vision for moral philosophy rooted in empathy and shared humanity. As we engage with Dante's ethical constructs, we uncover a reflective exercise in understanding ourselves against the backdrop of larger moral narratives. The invitation to introspectively examine our values, as informed by Dante, leads to the rekindling of consciousness surrounding the ethical dimensions of our choices. In many ways, contemplating the impact of our actions within our communities encourages a continuous pursuit of moral clarity. To meaningfully apply Dante's insights, it is essential to contemplate the implications of our actions, especially in a world that often prioritizes individual success over collective well-being. Each decision, whether in our personal lives or within our communities, reflects our adherence to a moral ethos. How do we utilize Dante's insights to create more humane structures within which we can thrive, both individually and collectively? Are we mindful of the narratives our actions contribute to, consciously striving to embody virtues such as justice and compassion? As we conclude this exploration of Dante's moral philosophy, we are left with not only the challenge to reflect, but the imperative to act with both spirit and discernment. Our interactions with others, our involvement in social platforms, and our personal choices all resonate with echoes of Dante's moral convictions. Ultimately, this examination prompts us to reassess how we engage with our immediate communities, the ethical frameworks that guide our lives, and the legacies we wish to create. A legacy that resonates with honor, empathy, and a commitment to the universal quest for truth and redemption. Reflecting on Dante encourages us to embrace the journey of growing ethically within ourselves and our contexts. Recognizing our moral agency amidst the intertwined narratives of life can foster a more profound understanding of our responsibilities in the world. As we endeavor to frame our paths toward virtue, let us carry forward the commitment to navigate the moral dilemmas we encounter every day, nurturing a landscape where justice, love, and personal integrity can flourish harmoniously. Ever inspired by Dante's timeless journey through the realms of existence.
Midnight rails under silver moon, dusty boots on a winding road. A shadow's the only friend I've known since she packed up and let me go. Empty whiskey bottle on the seat, her laugh still echoes in my bones. Saddle's heavy with memories. I ride alone where the wind still blows. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Sunrise paints the horizon gold, but it don't warm a lonesome soul. Every town I pass feels half her size. Every trail's haunted by goodbye. I whisper prayers to open skies, hoping someday my heart'll find a brand new path beyond the pain, where broken hearts can heal in time. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. No